Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 2 of a weekly series that I just started here on Instagram Live on Tuesdays at noon called Coaching Misunderstood. What coaching is/isn't. If you would like to get a brief intro on what this is about, why I'm doing it, I recorded that episode last week, and you can find that right under the IGTV tab. And today's episode is going to be the first episode we cover of what coaching is. So there's not going to be any particular order in the way these come, so don't worry about missing episodes. They're just kind of when I sit there at night and think, what do I want to share today? Okay, cool, that's what I'm going to share today. So coaching is a tool designed to close the gap. So that's what we're going to cover today. Coaching is a tool, and the tool of coaching is to close the gap. What's a gap? I'm going to hold my hands up and show you. So the space that you see between my hands, that's the gap space, right in there. So anything that happened before this hand here, that's the past. Anything that's past this other hand, that's a little bit more into the future than we are going to go when we're working in a project or something like that. So why we work in the gap is that's where people tend to need support. It's not to say that things that happened before where we're going to work aren't important. But again, if we're before this hand, that's the past. And a coach's job isn't really to get into the past with you much, unless they're trying to go back with you to identify patterns that got created from childhood and up. That's really the only reason in coaching that we want to go back there. We want to establish patterns. How do you protect yourself? Why do you do the things that you do? And if anyone needs an example of that, it could be, maybe someone is in their career and they really, really, really want to get promotions and they want to lead and they want to step out. But maybe some stuff happened when they were kids or something like that. And they got the idea that it's not actually safe to step out too much, kind of fly below the radar. So as you can imagine, if you've got this deep desire that you want to do that, but you've got all this stuff behind you, it's going to make it challenging to do that, and you're going to self-sabotage to stay safe. So again, we'll go back there in coaching to do the pattern work, but anything more than that, we're actually going to refer out to another professional because that's not a coach's skill set. And that's something we'll get more into most likely in the episode that I'll do called What Coaching Isn't. It's not therapy. So again, back in this gap space. And also, it doesn't mean we're not going to pay attention to anything on the other side of the hand. We're just not going to spend too much time there, because if you can imagine, if you were working with a coach and you were trying to really be creating something now that's not going to happen for 20 years, that's challenging. So many variables would shift, you would shift. So typically when you're in the gap space, for the way most coaches work, you're going to be covering probably like 6 months of stuff to a year of stuff, because we kind of need to break things up in chunks or it's too overwhelming and way too much changes. So, anything outside of here, you might kind of have some idea, like, okay, there's my 3-year plan, my 5-year plan, right? But we got to be super loose with it and super unattached. So, again, this is the gap space, and coaching is a tool to close the gap. So coaches work inside the gap. And the reason why people hire coaches to work in the gap with them is you close the gap faster. And when you're closing the gap, you're having a much more enjoyable time than if you were out there on your own. So that covers this episode. And again, these episodes aren't meant to give you everything all at one time. They're meant to be short snippets so that you can digest the information. And they're going to keep coming weekly. Apologies for that noise, y'all. I like to do these outside, and apparently the yard workers want to come when I do this. If you leave any of these videos that leave you curious for more, or you find there's another question, shoot me a DM and I'll make another episode out of it. But again, they're intended to be short, sweet, easily digestible. So now you know what coaching is, and coaching is a tool that supports people in the gap space. from where you are to where you want to go. We get in there, and that's where we have a grand old time. Have a great day, everyone, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of Coaching Misunderstood.